Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Deal. I'm Jason Kelly alongside Alex Rodriguez, who's about to get a little bit older. He's on vacation, about to celebrate and join the 50 Club, the five handle. I welcome you prematurely to this club, Alex. Hope you're enjoying your vacation. And wow, big birthday.
Not quite the 50-50 Club, just the 50 Club.
Just the 50 Club.
And I'm very depressed.
Are you? No. Come on. Look what you've done in your first half century.
I am, Jace, because, you know, guys like you and I, we've always been like the young guys in the group with older friends. And now we're like getting to that point where we're now the senior guys in the room.
I know.
Pretty depressing.
You're right. But you got to lean into it. You got to lean into your wisdom. But in the meantime, we've got a great interview with Muriel Bowser. She's the mayor of D.C., the first mayor we've had on the show. And man, she's a deal maker.
Obviously, and a big one that is. I mean, this is as big, if not one of the biggest for sure, projects that Josh Harris is spearheading with the football club there. And I'm really excited to hear the process, how to go, how difficult was it?
Yeah. So what's so interesting about her is, you know, this is a mayor who, in the span of less than 2 years, has brought the Commanders, Josh Harris's football club and the NFL juggernaut, back to the District of Columbia on the old site of the RFK Stadium. And at the same time, kept Ted Leonsis and his Washington Wizards, the Washington Mystics, and the Washington Capitals, they're in the nation's capital. I should also mention that is where the, at one point, great Georgetown Hoyas play basketball. They're in downtown D.C. But she was the one who really brought it all together. And I mean, you know this from, you know, having lived and worked in New York, Miami, you know, now in Minnesota and the Twin Cities. You got to have the public officials on your side. And when you do, they can be very powerful forces, especially in the world of sports.
Yeah, you got to give her a lot of credit because it's not one of the most popular things as a political person to do these days, right? To take public money and use it for, you know, these private businesses. But I think you got to give her credit because she recognized how important sports is, how it brings people together, how it's good for people's morale, self-esteem. And look, when the Commanders win, there's no denying it. People go to work on Monday with a, you know, hop on their step. And when they lose, the opposite is true. So to keep both those big conglomerates in that community, big congrats to her.
Well, and Alex, you and I know never easy to do deals with the likes of Ted Leonsis and Josh Harris. And these deals never really stop with the drama on the sidelines. In the time since we recorded this interview with Mayor Muriel Bowser, a reminder also that she is in the nation's capital and has the attention of none other than the President of the United States, President Trump, taking to social media, calling for a name change of Washington's football team and making that a condition of this deal going through. Mayor Bowser, in a press conference, said nothing like that is going to stop or delay this stadium deal from getting done, and that it all really rests with the D.C. City Council. Coming up, Mayor Muriel Bowser here on The Deal. Welcome back to The Deal. I'm Jason Kelly alongside Alex Rodriguez. Thrilled to have with us the mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser. Mayor, so good to see you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's so interesting to us because obviously we talk a lot about deals. We talk a lot about sports. It feels like you've probably done more sports deals than any mayor that we know about. How did that come about? How did you become the mayor of sports?
Well, we have been investing in sports in D.C. for a long time. We see the transformative effect that it has, not just on the kind of the civic spirit, but on dollars and cents in the nation's capital. And so I've had the great opportunity to be mayor of my hometown for 10 years. And we've had some great opportunities from building a practice facility for the NBA to a stadium for the MLS soccer, to saving our teams in downtown. And now bringing our team home. And I can't leave out baseball during my tenure. We've also, we won a World Series and hosted an All-Star game. So we've had a lot happening. We are always happy to welcome the world to DC so that you can see we're more than monuments and the White House and Capitol, but real people live here and we know how to have a good time.
You mentioned that it's your hometown, Mayor. So what was your relationship with sports growing up? Were you a sports fan? Was it a sports household that you grew up in? What did you think about the teams as a kid?
I mean, I think that we were fans. And keep in mind, and this may be interesting to you, Alex, I grew up in a DC that did not have a professional baseball team. And I grew up with a dad who loved baseball because he grew up with baseball in Washington, D.C. So we were always fans of all the sports. I'm one of 5 kids. We always played sports for fun and sportsmanship and fitness and all that good stuff. And we went to games occasionally, but we watched games a lot.
So, Mayor, take us back to like when you were a teenager. Did you ever dream that you would be in such a powerful position to make an impact on so many Americans?
Well, I knew, Alex, that I loved DC and I love politics. We have a elected position here that is a volunteer position called Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner. And we're unique, of course, in the American system where, we pay taxes, but we don't have senators and we don't have a voting representative in the Congress. So every elected office in DC takes on even more importance, even the voluntary ones like ANC commissioner. And my dad was one of the first ANC commissioners. So I grew up just really loving the city and seeing how activism can change lives. And so I think I went all the way through college not really knowing exactly what I would do, but I knew I wanted to work in DC, change neighborhoods, help people. And I found out quickly the fastest way to do that was getting myself elected.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about Washington, Mayor. I had the good fortune of living there twice. One, when I was born. I was born at Walter Reed Hospital when my dad was serving in the military, and then I went to Georgetown, and I learned what an ANC, commissioner was because, at Georgetown, you're kind of invested in the politics of
For sure.
the world, but also the politics of the city. One of the things that's so fascinating, and it takes us right into the sports of it all, is the nature of the governance, which you talked about, but also the proximity to, 2 other states where, as you've seen in your lifetime, as we've all seen, teams can just go and play there. They don't have to go very far to still be in the area, which certainly was the case, with the Commanders. So let's talk about that deal. Josh Harris has been a guest on the show. David Blitzer has been a guest, Magic Johnson. So we've talked a lot about the Commanders because it was such a seminal deal in the transition from Dan Snyder to Josh Harris and his group. But this moment where they are moving back to what I think Josh and you and others have called the spiritual home of this team is a big deal. Tell us the genesis of that from your perspective, because it was always on people's minds. But what was the moment where you thought, okay, this could actually happen?
I've always believed it was going to happen, Jason. I was sworn in as mayor in January of 2015, and I have believed from that day until now that it would happen. We have the best site, and we had to work hard until all of the conditions were right. The ownership conditions, the political conditions, and our ability to advance a great deal that DC residents believed was a great deal. And so I do think Josh's ownership and his approach has been the right one. Dan Snyder had really soured on the people of the district and vice versa. And having a Josh come in to change the culture, invest in the team, and restart his relationship with Washington, D.C. has been a great deal. I also have been very encouraged by the type of business person he is and the type of person that he is. So I trusted when we sat across the table from each other And we agreed to roughly what a timeline needed to be for the team and for the city. I thought if we could deliver in that timeline, then we would come to terms. And that's where we are today.
Tell us about that first meeting with Josh. Did you know him before? I mean, like you, he grew up in the area. Was he on your radar, or was it just sort of an outreach? He said, hey, can I come see you and talk about this?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I didn't know Josh, but he had brought together a couple of local folks who I do know very well, and Mark Ein and the Rails
Right.
family. Mitch Rails has headquartered his very large company in DC for a long time. And so I knew that relationship. And I think one of the first meetings that they had in DC after they secured the ownership was with us. And it was with us in City Hall. And so I believe from that point on that we would have a shot. Now, here was our problem. Our problem was we didn't control the land at RFK. For decades, that has been controlled by the National Park Service, which is part of the Department of the Interior. We had a long-term lease, but that lease restricted us from a multi-use development. And the lease was ending in now I'm going to forget, I think 2032. And so we as a city, you know how these things work. If it takes city investment or we have to bond out or we have to build infrastructure, we need at least 30 years on a lease to do that. And for me to be able to feel really good about the development, it had to be more than football. And it's 180 acres there. So you are familiar with Walter Reed. Walter Reed is 120 acres. And this one is on the banks of the Anacostia River. When you look west, you see the Capitol and the Washington Monument. So it's on the monumental axis. So it's unprecedented location. And it also has the benefit of having operated as a football stadium. And so we know a lot of the issues that have plagued their current stadium in terms of the fan experience and getting there and getting in and out, we'll be able to deal with.
So, Mayor, you mentioned that Josh and his group did some things very well. What were some of those things as far as whether it's attitude or the way he came at it from maybe a gracious way, one? And then two, what's been the hardest and the easiest part of getting some of these things through past some of your partners in D.C.?
Yeah, I think I kind of define integrity as doing what you say you're going to do. And that has been my experience with Josh. If he says he's going to meet with us, he meets with us. If he says, this is our timeline, that has been the timeline. It hasn't wavered. It hasn't gone back and forth. He hasn't tried to play the jurisdictions against each other. I think he's been pretty straight up and saying, we believe this is where we're supposed to be. It's not that we don't love Maryland. It's not like we don't love Virginia, but I don't want to play you against each other. We're going to take our shot with the district. And the term that I use is when they were ready to throw down with us, we were ready to throw down with them. But we are all grown-ups, and we know that we have to put together a great deal, a business deal that he has to be able to deliver to his ownership group, and a deal on our side that I have to be able to deliver to the DC Council and DC voters. And that's where we are. So I think that's what he's done well. He's kept his word, and he's been an honest broker among all parties. The tough parts, I think we anticipate. We had to wrestle the land from the Congress, and we jumped through a lot of hoops to do that. And that's harder for us, quite frankly, because we don't have two senators. And we're talking about getting something from another state that does have two senators. So that's been hard. But even then, we have great relationships with our counterparts in Maryland and Virginia. I've worked very hard to make this a win-win for them and for us. And I think we're getting there. The last parts are the politics related to investing in sports stadium, which nobody is surprised by. What we needed to do was put together a great deal. And when we stack our deal up against stadium deals across the country, we have contributed less than any other jurisdiction other than the kind of the outlier that was 100% funded out in Los Angeles. Even when we look at the deals within the district, this one compares very favorably. Nats Park, for example, where the Washington Nationals play, people forget this, but back in 2008 or so, that stadium was completely funded by taxpayers at $600 million.
Mm.
In today's dollars, that would be over $1 billion. This deal, the city will only contribute towards the horizontal infrastructure under the stadium, another $200 million for infrastructure on the campus, and another 185 plus 175, 356, I think, in parking garages. So just under $1 billion. And we also want to build a local sportsplex for our kids that gets us to $1.1 billion. So when you talk about all of the stadium deals across the country, we know ours is a good one.
And so, Mayor Bowser, I mean, as you said, you anticipated some of the political wrangling and back and forth that's been happening, especially with the D.C. City Council. I know enough to be dangerous from having lived around there that, nothing's ever easy, getting done in the district. You know that better than anyone. Has the opposition, though, or the questions been more than you anticipated? And is it to the point where you feel like things are in jeopardy? Are you worried at this moment? I know there are a lot of moving parts as we speak.
Well, the biggest support I think that we needed to win was in the public. And we have managed to do that. DC residents support us contributing to building a new stadium with a mix of uses, housing and recreation and parks at RFK Stadium. The fans support it, like in Maryland and Virginia as well, having the stadium located at RFK. And I believe the vote at the council will be 10-2 or 11-2 in the final analysis. Where I'm a bit frustrated is the urgency. I think that the council is lacking because in my world, things change fast, especially now. Context changes, people change, world events happen that can affect deals going through. I told a group of folks recently, and this is how I live my life. Sometimes there are windows of opportunity that open. You never know when they're going to close. So while they're wide open, you better get through that window or else that opportunity could close on you. And that's, I believe, where we are. I negotiated a great deal that allowed us a period of exclusivity through July 15th. And I am particularly sensitive to periods of exclusivity because I won back our teams during a time when they thought they were going to someplace else. And I'm talking about the Wizards and the Capitals now.
Yeah.
But because I believe that that deal was tenuous, I didn't think it was right for the teams. I knew it wasn't right for the city. I refused to stop talking to our owners. I just refused. So they didn't have a period of exclusivity. And so in that time, we won our teams back. So I know how important it is when team ownership is only talking to you. And I know how perilous it can be when other offers are thrown at them.
So, Mayor, you mentioned another giant in the world of business in Ted Leonsis.
Yeah.
Obviously, he owns the three teams, the Mystics, the Capitol, and the Wizards. How would you describe either both superpowers, or how is their approach different, the way they went about building new arenas?
I think Ted has been like an amazing part of the DC business community. And I think he didn't make a great decision. That's how I've kind of approached it. And it was my job to convince him of that. And more than that, to make him a part of something bigger, which was how we described it as the DC comeback. Post-COVID, downtown DC kind of suffered. It was the remote work phenomenon where so many people were working at home. We saw our streets a little bit emptier. Our restaurants suffered a bit. And Monumental Sports was at the heart of downtown. It didn't suffer. In fact, it got bigger in the post-pandemic years. More shows, more people, more nights occupied. And so we knew what Monumental could continue to be for DC. We also listened intently at what they wanted to achieve in a renovation and what they could get if they moved and they had a clean slate and they could build from scratch. It was our challenge to give them all of those, the space, the fan experience, while building in place. And I think we were able to achieve that.
And so, Mayor Bowser, I would love to hear more about that comeback because it was, I mean, watching it from a distance, I mean, it was quite a turn of events. You had, I mean, there was literally a press conference with Ted Leonsis and, Governor Youngkin, et cetera. This was all in motion. It felt, for those of us who were on the outside, like a done deal. Ted Leonsis obviously was well known to you. I mean, do you just call him up and basically say, as my 7-year-old daughter says, bro, are you kidding me right now? Like, what do you say?
Oh, there were a long series of conversations. Probably the one that will be remembered is maybe the day or two before they had that press conference where they met with me and other city leadership to kind of talk through their decision. And even in that discussion, it was kind of clear to me that it was a tortured decision for him. But the thing that will always ring true was that he said to me then or soon thereafter, I haven't signed anything. And I thought, ding, 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 this is not done. And then I thought to myself, then what are you talking about? And so in another longer format, like we can kind of talk through the psychology of that. But I always believed that until it was over, it wasn't over. But even more, and this probably resonates with both of you, is that DC residents were quite upset about it.
Yeah.
They were sad, really upset, sad, disappointed, all of the things. And so it was clear that I have as mayor to put us in a place to be ready if this team stayed, but also to be ready if they went. And we put together a great team of developers, architects, landscape artists, retail experts, just housing experts, a great team of folks. And we called it the Gallery Place Task Force. It was led by 2 female developers in DC that had very successfully turned underutilized places into amazing new neighborhoods. And they just did a great job of showing us what our future could be at Gallery Place in the heart of downtown if we didn't have the stadium there. And, frankly, some people were getting excited about that too. So I think we had 2 great options. We always believed the best was to keep our team. It's hard to replace, especially in a short amount of time, 200 nights or 170 nights with 20,000 people coming in and out of your downtown and the excitement that brings. We also didn't want the team to stay in the same box, if you know what I mean. And so the $800 million of investment, $500 million over is ours, is the city's. We have now become the owner of the arena, and we're going to have the team there for a long, long time. But now the new design better speaks to the surrounding area. So on dark nights, it's not dark, it's not cold, but it interacts with the restaurants and other surroundings. So I'm really excited about it. We think that's a great arena just where it is. And I have seen so many shows and sporting events. Most recently, an inaugural ceremony was held inside, and the arena became a big part of that. So I can't even imagine that not being in the heart of downtown DC.
I mean, it was interesting, too, because, again, Ted is well known to both Alex and myself. And if I recall right, and we don't have to go like super deep into this, but there was also an element of like some retail space became available. Is that like you were able to sort of reshape sort of those several blocks around it as well? So it was an even more holistic redevelopment than just the arena. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's a apartment, office, retail building right next to it. And in between the arena and that building is an alley that is owned by the district that we made a part of it. And so when you see the designs, it's like you're coming into this, like a new street, but it's inside. It's pretty spectacular. And they're going to use a lot of the retail space to improve their fan experience and a different entrance, better flow. We are just funded in our budget that we're also investing in an entertainment district so the streets will actually look different and feel different and operate different in and around that. And one really great thing that came about during this process is we just have been able to move fans in and out of the facility faster,
Hmm.
using a package of our personnel that we had perfected really at Nats Park. But now we also have it in place at the Capital One Arena. So it's been really great.
I'm reminded, Mayor, of, Alex is just recently back from the All-Star game in
Yeah.
Atlanta, my
Hmm.
hometown, and has been raving about the Battery down there and sort of how they completely rethought, all these intersections that you just mentioned, the residential, the retail, the
Hmm.
hospitality, obviously all anchored by sports. So it's amazing how much more thought goes into that than candidly when we were all kids. And it was like, yeah, you go to
Yes.
the stadium, you get a hot dog, you cheer for A-Rod and then you go home,
Right.
and like, and that's it.
And a lot of it is come up around Gallery Place even more organically, but it's there. And if you
Yeah.
haven't been, I don't know if you were at the All-Star game that we hosted here. I guess that was 2018 now. It's been a minute. But even all of the places, the bullpen and everything that has come up around Nats Park, even in the last couple of years, is just so interesting for fans and fans of all ages. I think that's another thing that we are, and I know all of the professional teams are trying to make sure they're increasing fandom. They have a lot of competition with kids. And how are we making sure our kids understand baseball, know football, because we see these sports growing?
I was there for the All-Star game when you guys hosted. I was
Yes.
also there for the year that you won the World Series. I went to every
Yeah.
World Series game, and you guys did a fabulous job of hosting the
Thank
World
you.
Series. So I'm really intrigued by this. I'm reading your bio here. And you majored from political science and government, and you have your master's in public policy. But
Yes.
you are a very, very savvy businesswoman, as Jason already knows. I'm learning here. Where do you get that like DNA in you? And two, how would you describe your negotiating style? Because you're negotiating some of the biggest deals in this country.
Wow. Thank you for that, by the way. And because it is sometimes when you do politics, and I've done this, and maybe you have this experience because you've been in sports, but getting people to see you differently and see your whole set of skills is hard. I had a reporter say to me during this process for one of the business publications in DC, not Bloomberg, of course. He said, "Have we just missed that you are a master negotiator all these years?" And I said, "Perhaps you have." But like, if you have to stand in front of a neighborhood and try to convince them that they need sidewalks when they don't want them, you become a really good negotiator. Or
Mm.
if you have to go in a neighborhood and say, "Hey, we want to complete this network of bicycle lanes," and it may mean that you're going to lose 3 parking spaces, you become a good negotiator. At the same time, I negotiate with big unions, teachers' unions, and for example, who are tough to deal with. But I've gotten 3 labor contracts through in the last 10 years with teachers and many others. So I think the experience of being a big city mayor puts you in very micro negotiations on blocks and very big negotiations in boardrooms. I think I have learned how to do both. And I even think in the case where all of our sports teams, some of these negotiations take patience. Some of them take big, bold ideas that you got to just push and push hard until you get them done. But in any case, I think you start off a negotiation with your core values. And when you can work with a partner across the table and hit your core values and allow them to get their core values, you get a win-win.
Given where you sit, I do wonder, and we talk about this, Alex and I, all the time. We talk with other guests about it. Sports it hits different, than almost any other industry, especially in times where we can't agree on much of anything. People do tend to rally around sports. You are obviously no stranger to politics, and all of it's right there in your literal backyard. Is there, or should there be, a way to keep sports sort of out of the political discourse? Should it be? How does it fit into a world where we're arguing about so many things all the time?
I think that would be amazing if we could do that. I don't know how realistic it is, but I think it would be good. For us, there's politics everywhere in and around our arenas. Our arenas have become backdrops for political fundraisers. Like I just said, we just hosted when the inauguration moved indoors. It was inside the Cat One Arena. And different, I think, political figures engage with sports differently. So I think it just depends. If you have a big sports fan in the White House, then you probably will see different engagement. I think all of the members of Congress that I have been involved with love to be around successful sports teams. And we wouldn't be sitting here, for example, if I didn't strike up a great relationship with a Republican from Kentucky who said, I'm going to help you get that land. And
Interesting.
He did. He absolutely did. And
who is that?
His name is James Comer from Kentucky. He happens to be the oversight chair. Until we become a state, Jason, we have an oversight committee that asks us any number of questions. In one particular meeting, I said, listen, I'll answer all your questions about public safety or whatever it is, but this is my question for you. Will you help us get people back to work in their offices, and will you help us get RFK? And he said,
wow.
Yes, I will. So
interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. That's a good insight into how things work, again, differently for you than maybe any other big city mayor. All right, so we're going to do a quick lightning round to wrap this up and let you get back to, running our nation's capital. It's 5 questions. First thing that jumps to your mind, I'll start, and then Alex will pick up. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've received on deal making or business?
I think the best piece of advice on deal making is to stay at the table.
All right. Who is your dream deal making partner?
I think it's Josh Harris.
Oh.
There you go. Good answer. What team do you want to see win a championship more than any?
Oh, I can't answer that. But we would love, no. I will answer it because we would love to have the Super Bowl. Like, we haven't hosted a Super Bowl with our stadium. It will have a roof. And Roger Goodell, he didn't promise, but he got right up on the line. We would love to host a Super Bowl in our new stadium at RFK.
And have the Commanders win it, probably, right?
Yes. I know they don't have to play here, but it would be great if, they were in the Super Bowl in D.C.
What's your hype song before a big meeting or negotiation?
Oh, my God. I have a new one, Alex. It's so funny that nobody knows this.
Oh, breaking news. Breaking news.
Breaking news. My new hype song is by Whitney Houston, and it's called My Name Is Not Susan.
Ooh.
Whoa. That's great. All right. Finally, what's your advice for someone listening who wants a career like yours?
My advice is don't listen to people when they tell you it's not your turn. Get through the window.
I love it. Mayor Muriel Bowser, we had really been looking forward to this, and you over-delivered, which seems like is your style. So thank you so much. We really enjoyed it.
Jason. Great to see you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor.
Deal is hosted by Alex Rodriguez and me, Jason Kelly. This episode was made by Anna Mazarakis, Stacey Wong, and Lizzie Phillip. Amy Keene is our editor, and Will Connolly is our video editor. Our theme music is made by Blake Maples. Our executive producers are Kelly LaFerriere, Ashley Honig, and Brendan Newnham. Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. Additional support from Rachel Carnavale and Elena Sosangelis. Thanks so much for listening to The Deal. If you have a minute, subscribe, rate, and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. I'm Jason Kelly. See you next week.